I'm Elsa Rhae, and today's tutorial is a makeup plus digital art tutorial inspired by the art of Norman Duenas. This was a really fun and really different tutorial for me to do, and for all of those who have been wanting to see longer videos, here you go. Let's get into it. I'll start with the makeup portion. I begin by applying foundation to cover up any discoloration, and then I apply concealer to any spots that need it, like my under eyes, nostrils, and chin. And then with powder, I set my entire face. Next, I'm using these two gray eyeshadows from my Lorac Pro 2 palette to begin shading the skull. On this skull, I begin outlining all the details with the shadow, then lightly going over top of that with black face paint. If you'd like to see a more in-depth tutorial of a skull on my channel, click here. These are called split cakes. I got these two from justpaint.com, but I also have a tutorial showing you how you can make your own. To apply the split cakes, I'm using what's called a petal sponge. I get it just a little bit wet and get the split cake just a little bit wet. Then I load the sponge and get this awesome 3-color combo. Next, I just bounce the colors onto my face. Now the next process is the same for the top wing as it is for the bottom wing. I do these wiggle flicks down the entire wing, and then I add details between the flicks. I add little bumps, I add little white dots, little white highlights, drips to the bottom of the butterfly wing, and then I add veins to the wings. Now I know the original art has red lips, but I tried that and didn't like it, so I went with my favorite blue lips instead. And this is the final makeup look. Now for the digital art portion of this tutorial. I'm starting in Adobe Bridge, and here I have a folder of all of my video clips and of all of my raw image files. I select my favorite image and I open it in Camera Raw. The file I'm working with is a RAW file, meaning it is an unprocessed file with tons of information, just like a film strip before it's processed in a darkroom. And just like a darkroom is used to process the image, so too is this Camera Raw program. A lot of editors and photographers also use the program Lightroom, but I learned in Camera Raw and it works great for me. I do this lighting and coloring process in Camera Raw to every single one of my final images of every look. You will never see a professional advertisement in a commercial or magazine that hasn't been processed and color corrected, so I want mine to be of the same quality. When I've got my levels and stuff how I want them, I open the image and it takes the raw file into Photoshop. And if I'm not mistaken, Camera Raw is actually a tool of Photoshop. Don't quote me on that. I duplicate the original layer. You always want to do that. Have the untouched original just in case something wild happens. And I start by grabbing the burn tool. The burn tool is a tool that darkens color, and I generally use this really sparingly, if at all, on my final images because it can really change your look, and I kind of think that that's cheating. As you can see here, the image I was following may or may not have been backwards, but I flipped my image to match the one I was following just because. I'm really using the burn tool just to darken any areas that I already wanted shaded, just to give it a little bit more dimension than what I already had. Now I'm selecting the dodge tool, which does the opposite of the burn tool by lightening areas of your image, and I use that to lighten the whites of my eyes. This is the current before and after difference. It's a pretty big difference. Now I'm going to pull up the art image, duplicate that layer, and select the magic wand tool. This tool will select areas of similar color, so I select all the white, make sure the original background image isn't visible, and I hit delete to delete the white. With the eraser tool, I erase part of the face below the eyes that I know I'm not going to need, and I'm ready to go. Before I put the art into that image, I go ahead and save this raw file as a JPEG, because at this point I'm pretty much done. I don't need all of that information in the photo anymore, so I close out the raw file and open up the smaller JPEG. I drag the clock layer from the clock image into my image, and I use the eyes on both the clock and on my face as matching references by lowering the opacity on the clock so that I can see my eyes through it. Then I match them up, and then I turn the opacity back up. I wanted to change the coloring of the clock because it was way too warm to match the color of my skin tone, so I went into Filter, Other, and selected High Pass and turned the image a bit cooler. I wasn't expecting this filter to work. I don't really know what this filter does, but I like it a lot, so I chose it and it worked, so that was nice. Next, I get in there with my eraser tool that's set to a really soft setting, and I start erasing parts of the clock around my head. Now I ended up not really liking those braids in the image, so I took out the burn tool and tried to darken it up. And then I ended up just burning them out completely because why the heck not? And there you have a final image. That was a really fun tutorial. I'd be interested in doing some more of these digital art makeup tutorials if anyone's interested. It's fun doing new stuff. Keeps me entertained and keeps you entertained, I hope. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!